Hi, everyone. I'm excited to welcome you to the Florida Horticulture for Health Network's webinar, Recent Research on Horticultural Therapy and Therapeutic Gardens, the 2025 version. My name is Sarah Sterling, and I am on the advisory board for the Florida Horticulture for Health Network. Please note that this webinar will be recorded and we'll be taking questions in the chat, but waiting until the end to answer them. The Florida Horticulture for Health Network uses several platforms to share information and education. They are listed on the first slide. Lesley, if we can make sure we have that one up there. Please consider subscribing to the network via the website. Monthly e-blasts are sent to subscribers with upcoming webinars, recent YouTube videos, horticulture information, and other interesting events related to how horticulture can positively impact health. I'm very excited today to introduce Lesley Fleming, our presenter today. Lesley has led the Florida Horticulture for Health Network in establishing an online free resource hub with more than 4,000 research citations across 8 categories, including horticultural therapy, landscapes for health, and population-specific plant programming. She's been published in the Journal of Therapeutic Horticulture 12 times, is a peer reviewer for this journal, and publishes 2 quarterly EPUBs for the Florida and Nova Scotia Horticulture for Health networks, which she leads. Joanna Brown, who's unable to present at this webinar, also contributed to the presentation. She holds a certificate in horticultural therapy and a degree in humanities, social sciences, and environmental studies from the University of Central Florida. She's the founder of Horticulture for Healing, a nonprofit expanding access to therapeutic horticulture and of restorative horticultural therapy. Lesley, I'm pleased to turn this over to you.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. So, thank you all for joining in. I think we have a big group today, and we have a lot of big pile of research to go through. So, let's start off and see if we can share some research that may be helpful to you in your practice on horticultural therapy and therapeutic gardens. Here are our session goals. Identify and access research resources like the Florida Network Resource Hub and others. Apply research citation to HTTH practice for tasks of program proposals, grant writing, or population knowledge, and then expand understanding of how research can be used for HT practice. So let me start by saying theory and practice combine to make this session hopefully relevant to practitioners. Examining the research can guide practitioners in developing horticultural therapy, therapeutic horticulture programs, what is out there that we can use, and how we can present it to decision makers so that they are inspired and motivated to hire us to deliver HT and TH. We're going to use the term HT for both horticultural therapy and therapeutic horticulture, so using it as an umbrella term for many of the applications. And I'd like to say this PowerPoint will be available. We're recording it, so you don't have to scribble the citations. They're listed at the end by topics, and you may choose to look at the recording as well if you want to access it more. So, research and program examples, I think, are the best path to making HTTH interventions and programs happen. Going through the huge amount of research is tedious. So, let us help synthesize this for you. We have used the Florida Horticulture for Health Network Resource Hub as a content driver for this presentation. I may refer to it as a Florida Resource Hub just to shorten that. But I'd like to say, having researched much of it in the 35 plus categories and subsets, we have been able to narrow it down for specific use in this presentation. So a few overview comments, if you will allow me. Use the Resource Hub as a shortcut to research in specific areas. You're going to have to do your own research with much of it available by searching Google Scholar and PubMed. And if you don't have access to academic databases and HortScience, HortTech, or Acta Horticulturae, then I suggest read the titles. They give you a sense of the topic, then choose if it suits your needs, and you might have to scramble a bit to actually get the research document, and use program examples. I'm going to mention that point a few times today. So I'm going to cite research that was published since 2020, and I would like to stress that using current information is quite important. So let's look at some research in the 2 areas of horticultural therapy and therapeutic gardens. Now, spewing the research alone is not going to be successful for convincing organizations to establish HTTH programs. Use program models that are in place and successful short printed materials to leave with your contact. And I would also just suggest a plant, to remind them that you were there and are offering a program, an intervention, a garden design. So up on the screen now, this paper used by the Horticulture for Health paradigm demonstrates broader perspectives, identifying programs across sectors, including HT, gardens, and nutrition, for example. So I suggest skimming this one to see if any relate or inform what you want to do, because it captured successful models by healthcare organizations, locations with specifics on plant-based interventions or gardens. And I guess the takeaway is, do consider cross-sector ideas. So let's move into research in horticultural therapy. Let me start by saying, woo, there's a lot of research that exists, and it covers a broad range of topics from specific populations, settings, and studies. Many of your facility contacts will relate to gardening, not necessarily being aware of horticultural therapy. So I would say use that as a starting point. Health benefits of gardening. This can lead into HTTH as targeted interventions, and I think will resonate with some decision makers who garden themselves. And the benefits include reduced stress and improved mental health, increased exercise, social connections, improved nutrition. And these were drawn, and I suggest that you look at this, the Florida Resource Hub category, Horticulture for Health, Gardening Health Benefits. Okay, so additionally, there are meta-analyses, and they share more benefits of gardening. And these include effective gardening activities on domains of health, identifying key benefits and characteristics of community gardening for vulnerable populations, and urban gardening and public health, a bibliometric analysis, and they're listed here on the screen. And these are just some of the ones that we've pulled. So, what do you need to demonstrate HT is effective? And this could be for writing a research paper or presenting a funding proposal, a program proposal to a facility or other organization. I think probably starting with a general reference for why HT is effective. I would read through the list of research in the Resource Hub in the category HT and Health Services, and there's a subset, Horticultural Therapy and Therapeutic Horticulture, looking for specific research that suits your circumstances or your population or your settings. And the article on the screen here, Adapting Horticultural Therapy as Fall Prevention Among Community Dwelling Older Adults, was published in the Journal of Therapeutic Horticulture. This may apply to your needs, it may not. And I would say that the Journal of Therapeutic Horticulture really is the preeminent source of articles, evidence-based and peer-reviewed articles for horticultural therapy and therapeutic horticulture, but they're certainly not limited to this journal, and you'll see as we go through this presentation. So, analyzing HT research, several significant points emerge. One is, who is generating the research that's being published in these multiple peer-reviewed journals and disciplines? You see here on the screen, 15 research studies and articles in the last 5 years have been done through the University of Florida, where Lee Deal leads the TH program. Her work, done in collaboration with multiple university departments, has researched topics where therapeutic horticulture provide health benefits. For example, college students struggling with mental health, people with low back pain, and patients undergoing electroconvulsive therapy and hemodialysis. And the complete listing of the research with the University of Florida, Lee's work, is at the end of this PowerPoint. So just take a minute to look at the diverse departments that she is working with. Okay, so I've had the privilege of having 12 articles published in the journal Therapeutic Horticulture. Thank you for mentioning that, Sarah. 8 papers were co-authored and published in the last 5 years on topics, and you see them listed on the screen: therapeutic horticulture goals and that activities, HT research review and developments in the field, HT and human trafficking, U.S. hospitals delivering HT therapeutic gardens and programs through associated community gardens, an article co-authored on self-regulation in neuroscience and horticultural therapy, and hopefully sense of place. This one um, we've submitted to the Journal of Therapeutic Horticulture. So other topics on the Horticulture for Health framework: relevancy of sense of taste to HT, COVID-19 impact on HT and gardening, have also been published, and I think these topics reflect current issues in the field. So looking at the HT research, we think it's best presented today and useful if we share examples by specific populations of seniors, dementia, we've combined those two, mental health, and medical conditions. And again, at the end of the PowerPoint, we'll list more citations than in the body of this PowerPoint, just to give you a good bibliography. So let me start with the 2024 Journal of Therapeutic Horticulture article I wrote with Lee Deal and Katie Grimes, and it presents therapeutic goals for therapeutic horticulture and activities from the Therapeutic Horticulture Activities Database, which we commonly refer to as THAD. And it's population specific and health domain specific, with information that's been used by practitioners to expand practice. So here's a citation for this, and I think this is a good overview paper that will show you the different health domains and give you some ideas for therapeutic goals. You might find it useful. So let's start with horticultural therapy research for senior and dementia populations. The Florida Horticulture for Health Network Resource Hub categories of HT and health services, and then another category called populations horticulture programs in specific settings with a subset of senior dementia, has programs and research. So what research can you reference that may be helpful in promoting HTTH services? And here's what we recommend. There are quite a number of research studies that demonstrate HT is effective with older adults. And you can see the quote: HT may be a useful tool for enhancing the physical, mental, and social aspects of the elderly. Yun et al. 2023. The next slide is going to identify meta-analyses examining effectiveness of TH, and they have been published, and they speak to different audiences, which I think this group today, we come from not just one discipline, but multiple disciplines, and that the journals and the audiences included American medical directors, gerontological nursing, and public health folks, all working with seniors. So here are the two studies that we wanted to share. Meta-analysis examining HT in older adults. Jiang, 2019, The Effectiveness of Horticultural Therapy on Older Adults, a systematic review, and that was in the Journal of American Medical Directors Association. And then the Yun paper et al. 2023, Effects of Horticultural Therapy on Health in the Elderly, a review and meta-analysis. Now, for those of you who are maybe not as familiar with meta-analyses, this is where the researchers gather related information on a given topic, and they then analyze or assess, and what they are picking up are trends or important points that cross over multiple publications, and these tend to be very strong. I think a lot of researchers now really look to these, and journals love to publish meta-analyses, so that's a good starting point. Okay, and other research focuses included Farkas et al. 2024, Horticultural Therapy on Static, Dynamic Balance, and Gait Speed among Institutional Older Adults. And then another one, Effectiveness of Horticultural Therapy on Physical Functioning and Psychological and Horticultural Therapy Impacts on Mental Status, Sleep Quality, and Salvia salivary markers, that one done by Shen et al. In 2022. So what we're trying to do in this presentation is show you the scope or the breadth. These we've kind of grouped by physical domain challenges that seniors or people living with dementia might have. Okay, HT with people living with dementia, they have been examined as a distinct population for many of the research publications. And this example from a practicing HTR, who I think many of you probably know or know of, provides recommendations that we can implement. And the author, Matt Wakrowski and Moscovici, 2024, titled Horticultural Therapy for Individuals Coping with Dementia, Practice Recommendations Informed by Related Non-Pharmacological Interventions, examines challenges to healthcare providers for this population, where cost-effective sensory reminiscence therapies and HT practices provide the basis for their recommendations. Now, copious amounts of research on dementia populations exist, covering a broad range of issues in horticultural therapy, and they include Zhu et al. 2023 HT dementia and depression, physiological therapeutic effects of harvesting activities in a patient with moderate Alzheimer's disease. That was published in 2024. And then a third one that we've pulled, maybe it's a fourth one, passive and active HT for people with dementia. And that was Kura et al. 2023. So I've tried to identify the titles as well as the year and the authors so that if you want to retrieve the information, it'll be a little bit easier. These meta-analyses of dementia HT interventions are recent and they shed light on positive impacts. And again, for we practitioners, some of these would be intuitive, but we need the evidence-based research for lots of purposes, mostly justifying what we are seeing in our practice on a daily basis. So one is Effectiveness of Horticultural Therapy in Older Adults with Dementia, written by Wang et al. In 2024, and Therapeutic Horticulture for Dementia, and that's a systematic review written by Weldon and Sawin in 2023. Research also suggests that outdoor activities can positively impact senior dementia health, and these can include a range of things, including gardening, HTTH, therapeutic garden time. And these are programming things that we probably will be recommending. Borella et al. 2023 paper on effects of an outdoor horticultural activities program on cognitive and behavioral functioning, mood, and perceived quality of life of in people with dementia was a pilot study, and that was published in Frontiers in Psychology. And then a paper by Du, Wang, Zhang et al. In 2024 looked at how outdoor horticultural activities affect elderly adults' thermal, physiological, and psychological responses, a field study. And so you can see just between these two examples that we're sharing today, there is a common theme of, again, that physical focus on challenges and outcomes, but yet quite diverse. So the research really is exciting in that it's expanding, moving into and examining a lot of different areas. Okay, so let's move on to horticultural therapy research for mental health. And this is one big area, mental health, with a major focus on stress reduction. And here are two general research articles where a meta-analysis was used examining multiple studies involving HT, and they're listed here on the screen. Horticultural Therapy for Stress Reduction, a systematic review and meta-analysis. Examine the effect of horticultural therapy on mental health using this meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials. And then the second one, published in the Journal of Psychiatric and Mental Health Nursing, examined randomized controlled trials to bring evidence-based medicine approach to the topic to help policymakers. And these studies showed significant and positive impacts on mental health compared to control groups, no negative effects, with recommendations that HT should be integrated into healthcare settings to improve mental health. So this type of research, I think, will speak to many of you who are working in healthcare settings, and you need the evidence to show, yes, it's effective, and let's consider implementing some of these programs. Key points from the research. Well, the first one is there's lots of research that's available, and the Florida Resource Hub has 200 plus research citations, plus I think 12 program examples in the horticultural therapy subset. These include links for some interesting models at botanical gardens. And again, I just kind of extracted some of these. I don't know why necessarily I went with botanical garden theme, but here's a few examples. Let me share. The Wellington Gardens in Hendersonville, North Carolina. The Cape Fear Botanical Garden partners with Wounded Warrior. HT programming at Chadwick Arboretum in Ohio for adults with physical and developmental disabilities, and Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, not a botanical garden, has an HT program, and they include programming with nutrition and gardening, and that occurs in Bronx, New York. So take a look at these, and again, they're available on the Florida Resource Hub site. The Florida Resource Hub identifies HT and TH programs working with mental health populations, which is what we're talking about right now. This isn't really the focus of this session, but we wanted to mention this resource as additional fuel for elevator speeches and proposals. Now, the research on HT and mental health covers specific mental health diagnoses as well as general mental health. And these papers have been published in a variety of publications, including Older Adults in Long-Term Care. That was published in 2023. Patients Admitted to Psychiatric Wards by Joubert et al. In 2024. Emotional well-being of elementary school students, and this one's quite well known and cited, O et al. In 2020, and Horticultural Interventions Reducing Adults' Depressive Symptoms, Rosa 2023, and then the last one that I wanted to include on this slide, Armstrong et al. In 2023, examines the relationship between horticulture, recovery, and occupational therapy in mental health. Again, hopefully what we're providing today is an insight into the scope of the research that is available. The resource hub categories of HT and health services, and you see that on the screen, and then another category, populations, horticulture programs in specific settings, includes mental health subset, as well as other ones that fall within mental health for many of us, and they might be eating disorders, autism spectrum disorders, or grief, or trauma recovery. So looking at this schemata, hopefully you get an idea of how the information is presented in the Florida Resource Hub. So, some examples, and I would suggest you refer to the bibliography for the full citations. This is a kind of a condensed version here. So, these are the topic titles. Role of gardening in mental health, food security, and economic well-being in resettled refugees, one population. That was published in 2024. Social and Therapeutic Horticulture for Reducing Symptoms of Depression and Anxiety, Wood et al. 2025. Evaluation of a horticultural therapy program for care home residents with mental illness, published in 2024, and Community Horticultural Therapy for Adults with a Learning Disability and Mental Health Difficulties, again published in 2024. So again, these are four quite distinct research publications that are available. Okay, so moving on to HT research in the area of medical conditions, what we see are impacts across populations that are diverse. And there are published research in peer-reviewed journals like Healthcare, Hort Science, Nutrients, and Open Journal of OT. So those journals are, they are speaking to different audiences. And, we are looking at this cross-sectoral approach where some of the work that we're doing may be presented and provide some validation that we need. So, selected research where HT has played a significant role in health, and you can see them on the screen: neuropsychological improvement of hospitalized children, depression intervention, cancer patients, psychological well being, adolescents with anorexia nervosa, extrapyramidal symptoms in patients with schizophrenia, and post-operative rehabilitation of hand injuries. And then there are a few others that I wanted to mention, not listed on this screen. Therapeutic horticulture with gynecological oncology patients, that was published by Javeri et al. In 2024. Electromyographic analysis of muscles in adults, Park and Park, 2024, and chronic back pain research by Sine et al. In 2024. So again, kind of the same point. This is a diverse health challenges where HT is being used for different health outcomes. Okay, so the Horticulture for Health hospital paper that I co-wrote with um, in- Karen Nelson and Evie Zhang found many HTTH programs and therapeutic gardens for veterans, and some are listed here. So as you can see from the paper's title, it spans plant-based activities with lots of examples, lots of models. Most, I think, can be replicated in hospitals as well as community gardens and social agencies. And I'm just going to give you a minute to let you read this on your own. Research on self-regulation and HT interventions, that is an emerging area with increased attention for multiple populations, including children, specifically for social emotional learning, for veterans, for populations that experience addictions. Now, some of these people and papers deal with diagnosed medical conditions and others not. They might be cognitive behavioral emotion regulation for children, HT activities reducing stress for children with autism, and HT neuroscience connections. That latter one was one of my papers in 2023. And these will be listed at the end as well. So, some great information for proposals may not be just research. It may be program models. They carry a high degree of effectiveness for decision makers. And these, as I said earlier, are also included in the Flora Resource Hub. So, research can back up program models. They can demonstrate your research or your understanding of therapeutic interventions. And I think that presentation is key. Know your stuff. Cite a few research studies, maybe not all the ones I'm presenting today, and take that live plant gift when meeting decision makers. Would we call this multimodal elevator speech? I think so, probably. And here's a reminder. We have listed all the citations at the end of the PowerPoint, and when you review the PowerPoint, you can the recording, you can pause it and cut and paste or go to the Florida Resource Hub. But you may need to search several categories. We've, done the cross-category extraction for this PowerPoint. Okay, so moving on to therapeutic garden research, it is not as rich a body of work as other areas, but equally important. And it spans several disciplines, including landscape architecture, engineering, environment, design, and horticultural therapy. So, one of the things that becomes apparent when you're looking at published material, therapeutic gardens come in all shapes and sizes, and different people define therapeutic gardens differently. The AHTA definition of therapeutic garden is listed here on the screen, and I think this is a good starting point for many of us. A plant-dominated space designed to meet the needs of specific users or populations, facilitating people-plant interactions to achieve therapeutic goals. These gardens are purposefully designed to be safe, secure, and comfortable, often incorporating features like wide accessible paths, raised planting beds, and sensory-rich plants. They can be used in various settings, including healthcare and rehabilitation, to support physical, mental, and cognitive health. And as you can see, that's from the American Horticultural Therapy Association. So there are several books that also provide good information, informative data on therapeutic gardens, including Cooper Marcus and Sachs' Therapeutic Landscapes, an evidence-based approach to designing healing gardens and restorative outdoor spaces. And that was written in 2013, but I feel it's still relevant and quite current. And then Jeffrey's 2023 book, Designing, Planting, and Using a Therapeutic Garden. A 2023 book by Marsh and Williams titled Cultivated Therapeutic Landscapes includes interesting examinations of therapeutic gardens from several perspectives, as these citations demonstrate: tending wild inside, cultivating, healing the unruly edges of the garden. That one sounds really interesting. And health and well-being benefits of therapeutic gardens, and gardening activities for older people living in residential aged care settings. So again, there are good resources out there. Some of these books are a little bit pricey, but if this is a discipline that you're working in, they're probably a good investment. Now, the latest publication released in May of 2025 expands the knowledge base on therapeutic gardens. The Youth Sensory Garden Manual from the American Horticultural Society is a free Yahoo downloadable guide written in support of children's health, intended for use by hospital gardens, and it is available to everybody on the AHS website, American Horticultural Society. And having read through this manual several times, it has informed me as a practitioner and author on papers in this discipline, so I do recommend that, especially because you can download it for free. Therapeutic gardens in healthcare settings, they continue to be an important and expanding area of practice and research. And this includes recent papers like the previously mentioned paper on horticulture for health in U.S. hospitals, or another one, Scoping a Review of Healthcare Gardens, and Niebler Walker et al.'s 2023 review of the literature. So what is the conclusion? And I think many of us know this without spending hours reading the research paper, but again, we need this as part of our professional delivery and understanding. Therapeutic gardens and hospitals can play a role in improving well-being when they are purposefully designed and well integrated in hospital programs and health policy. Now, Lee Deal at the University of Florida, who I've mentioned previously, has had several papers published on healing gardens, including Definition of Healing Gardens, published in 2023, Healing Garden Typology, and Design Guidelines. And here are the titles, and they're listed at the end of the PowerPoint. And the reason that I'm including this is that research has examined connections between healing and therapeutic gardens. That's no surprise to many of us in the academic world or in the healthcare disciplines. May et al. Investigated this with chronic diseases, and Olszewski, Guizzo et al. Contemplative features of therapeutic gardens inducing desirable changes in mood and brain activity in depressed adults. And I apologize to the authors if I'm not pronouncing their names properly. Research on therapeutic gardens design and use for specific health conditions include autism, and a paper by Annis in 2023, Huntington disease and neurological conditions, spring 2023 paper, and cancer patients, and at Oncology Hospital, two publications, one in 2023 and one in 2024. Papers on evidence-based design for therapeutic gardens for elderly people included Harrod et al. 2024 and Meneghetti et al.'s 2023 Psychological Impact of Dementia Facility Garden. So as you can see, these are really just the tip of the iceberg, and hopefully they will spark your interest. Research on perceptions of therapeutic gardens from hospital patients and staff was examined in a paper in 2020, and military service members' preferences. And this one was published in diverse journals in 20 and 2024. And again, what I'm trying to show is the range of publications. And research on sensory gardens as part of therapeutic gardens. These explore the human garden relationships. And I would say recently more research has been published on sensory gardens, which is exciting to see, including the Florida Horticulture Health Network creating a new subset in the resource hub on sensory gardens. Joanna and I worked on adding this new subset on sensory gardens to the resource hub, and it's listed under landscapes for health, one of the, I think, 8 or 9 categories. And the research that we identified included a 2023 paper on community horticulture based on sensory experience needs, a 2023 case study on hospital green spaces as therapeutic settings, and then one paper that's been cited quite a bit, Poya et al.'s 2024 Sensory Garden Design Proposal for Children with Autism. In addition, Salter, Brown et al. Sensory garden impacts on workplace well-being and analysis of sensory gardens for outdoor recreation for people with visual impairments are shedding a lot of light on sensory gardens and how they are used for positive health outcomes. Additional research is available in the Florida Resource Hub, Landscapes for Health, a category that I just mentioned, under therapeutic gardens. And what we find is there's a crossover, and that's why at the top of this presentation I said, like, look at cross-sector information. There can be therapeutic gardens in education, in healthcare settings, in seniors facilities, and you can see some of the papers written here. Therapeutic gardens in education, converting green spaces of Portugal's hospital campuses, Garden of the Senses addressing stress reduction. So I do think this is a growing area that many of us are interested in. So, where can you get this research? And, hopefully we've presented some information here. One is the Journal of Therapeutic Horticulture. Another one is the Florida Horticulture for Health Network's Resource Hub. Another one is Root in Nature's research database, and that's for paid subscription users. Or try Google Scholar or PubMed or conferences. There are conferences coming in up in October, the AHTA, CHTA conferences, both of which are virtual this year, and webinars like this one. Now, I'd also like to say, please consider writing up your program and submit it for publication to expand the body of knowledge. And listen, it doesn't have to be mixed method statistical study with institutional reviewed board approval. Some of you are going to be really good at that and you can do that. That's fabulous. But we also need practitioners who are delivering programs and how they are using research and the programs that you're presenting to focus on program profiles. So research includes those as well as statistical data. And I think all of these disciplines are strengthened by having that combination. So here are some tables with citations, and I'm going to scroll this quickly so you know that they are here. The research that we have referenced is compiled by topic in the next couple of slides, and you may have to watch the recorded PowerPoint again or available through the Florida Network webinar website or the recorded webinars. And you might have to pause and pace the research or go to the resource hub where this was drawn from. So here's the first one on health benefits of gardening, and then general HT papers. Then this one lists HT and mental health, HT and senior dementia populations, And again, these are only a few of the papers. We tried to pull the most current and the ones that we thought this audience would be interested in, giving a diverse taste of what research is out there. Then research on HT and medical conditions, that section that I talked a little bit about. Research on therapeutic gardens, and this is listed on the next 3 slides. Wasn't I the one that said that the research wasn't as robust? And yet, look, there are 3 slides here. So either I wasn't as good at editing, or I like this topic, or all of the above. Okay, and then photo credits for PowerPoint. Thank you to all these organizations for allowing us to use the photos. And then here's our contact information for myself and for Joanna, who wanted to be here, but her new program and social work came first today. So hopefully we have shared some information with you that will be valuable to you. You can contact us if you want. And again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's really exciting to see a lot of research is being generated out there. And I think that while it takes time to read these research papers, hopefully you will make some time. There may be some that appeal to you and your purposes. Good. Okay, so I
Thank
think
you so
that's
much, Lesley.
right. I'll leave this slide up for a minute in case people want to write it down. And I guess, do we have time for questions and answers?
Yeah, we definitely have time and we have a
Okay,
few. And so if folks have anything, any questions for Lesley, you can go ahead and put that in the chat. And I will look through them, and a few of us who are helping run this webinar can kind of dive through those, Lesley, so you don't need to do that at the same time.
thank you.
Lots of gratitude. So that that's in the chat for you. Root in Nature's research database is free for all. Here, there's the link that was put in the chat for everyone there. Lots of saying that this is super professional and informative, so thank you. I'll wait a couple minutes for any questions. Jessica or Bree, do either of you have individual questions coming to you in the chat?
I have not seen anything come through to me.
I hope that wasn't too overwhelming. While people may be putting some questions in, let me share a few therapeutic gardening examples that I've pulled from the Resource Hub before today's presentation. And again, if there are links associated with these in the Resource Hub, one is Anarchy Zone, and that's at Ithaca Children's Garden. And I thought that sounded like lots of fun with lots of fun play. And then another example is the Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, and that is for therapeutic programming and community outreach. And again, a lot of my work, I try to demonstrate scope or diversity. Legacy Health has 7 therapeutic gardens, and some of you would be familiar with those. Thank you, Teresa Hazen and her staff. And then McMaster Children's Hospital, and that's in Ontario, Canada. They have an outdoor playground and interactive spaces. And so that would be geared specifically, obviously, for children. And then Palo Alto VA Medical Center is for polytrauma patients rehabbing programs in multiple gardens. So they don't just have one therapeutic garden, they use multiple gardens. So again, that's maybe a taste of therapeutic gardens. Today, the focus was quite heavy on research, and hopefully that didn't turn you off, because I think the photos were nice.
Lesley, someone's wondering, you might be able to answer this better than me. For the AHTA journal, do you have to be a member of AHTA to access that?
Oh,
I
you
think you
either have
do.
to, yes, or you can pay to, um, you know, get a copy. If there's a specific one of my papers, why don't you contact me, and maybe we can share a little bit of, not necessarily the whole article. And some of the other work, written work that I do, I cite, paper, including my own. So if there's a specific one, let me know.
And then there was another question that there's like obviously so much categorization. Is there a taxonomy or data model available for topics categories?
You can see if you go on the website how we've set it up is by category. And I think you're going to have to put some time into it. So that's how we've chosen to do it.
Yeah, and I've put that link several times in the chat to everyone so folks can easily get right to the resource hub
Thank you.
that way. There's a question from someone that says, I'm newly working in this field with veterans. When you suggest people write up about their setting, what format would you recommend, i.e. single case example or overview of service provision?
And I'm assuming this is to write it up to submit to a journal. Do you think that's what the question is?
Yeah, that's how I'm interpreting.
Yeah, and I think either would be fine. The Journal of Therapeutic Horticulture doesn't tend to publish as many case studies, but that's probably a reflection of they're not submitted. And whenever I'm thinking of a topic that I want to submit to a journal, I usually send the abstract to the editor-in-chief and say, are you interested in this topic? And I think that's probably a good approach. I think either would be interesting. Personally, I would like to read, and I'm looking at a fair amount of research. I would probably be more interested in a program profile because case studies can be very specific and may not be as applicable. And we know within veterans populations, but the same for all populations, if you know one veteran with one health medical history, that's one person. And so applications may not be as broad, but a program profile can be broader.
Great. Lesley, a question about the HT certificate. Do you need to have an OT or counseling master's to get the HT certificate?
Okay, and I'm not going to answer that. Please contact the universities that deliver the certificates or AHTA.
And then you have a kind of a comment and a question. Lesley, you reminded me of one of the most helpful exercises we did in my HTTH certificate program at the University of Tennessee. Summarize a research article in one paragraph. How do you stay on top of so much research in an organized way? That's from Dean Graber.
Right, that's an ongoing process, Dean. Thank you for recognizing it. I mean, I do work on this year round. The next cycle of revisions to the Florida Network Resource Hub will occur in early 2026, and it's a team effort. Jessica, Bree, and Sarah, all of whom are helping with this webinar, contribute to it, as does Joanna Brown. And, if there are any of you out there who have special areas of interest, and you would like to be part of the work team for updating the resource hub, please contact me because we can use the help. It's a lot of reading, but I think we have to stay current. And this is just something that I feel I can contribute to the profession. And, some people don't want to touch research with a 10-foot pole. I think a lot of the journal authors are really good in their title identifying the theme or the focus of the research. And so for me, I can, look at that, maybe read the abstract, maybe then read the full paper, which I would be doing more based on the work that I'm doing. But for those of you, that's kind of a quick process that maybe you're interested in doing.
I think we might have come to the end of most of our questions here. Oh, is your contact info available for reach out and contribution?
Yes, contribution. I don't know what that means, but yes, you have my contact information. So please contact me. You can contact Joanna too, but for this presentation, be happy to respond.
And then the last thing I'll say, there was kind of a question or comment that says, how can we organize curriculum for adult female focused neurodivergence for burnout prevention, recovery projects? It's a pretty long comment, but it says, I'm not officially trained formally, but I self-lead and advocating for our need and preferences to improve quality of life. So I will just stress what I think AHTA would also stress is that we love people to be interested in this field in horticultural therapy, but definitely the certificate program and making sure that you are well trained so that you are doing all good and no harm to our clients is really critical. So if you're interested, or if you're just kind of starting to step your toe into the world of horticultural therapy, I would say please look up the programs, see how you can continue to be thoroughly educated on this field and the critical work that we're doing. And thank you again, Lesley, for kind of giving us an overview of this important research, of which there is so much, and also in continuing to keep up with the Resource Hub, which is a great free resource for everyone. This is a reminder that you can subscribe to Florida Horticulture for Health Network. There's been several links in the chat, and we're looking forward to seeing you all at future Florida Horticulture for Health Network webinars. So thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you.